20 seconds. And welcome to Three Geeks and a Microphone podcast. I'm Dean.
I'm Art.
I'm Russ.
And I'm Matt.
Matt, nice of you to join us again. You're going to be a regular fixture. We're liking this. So today we are, why are we doing this, guys? Russ, this is your fault.
I feel like we got tasked with this.
You know, I wanted to make you guys suffer so you can understand where I'm going through in life right now.
So our audience knows we are reviewing the 1980 film Xanadu. All right, guys.
Is this a film? Is it really a movie? It's on film, but I don't think this is a film.
I think
it's kind of like one of those Andy Warhol videos where the person just sits there and then all of a sudden they blink.
No, this is someone's fever dream. They were able to hack their brain and record their fever dream.
No, this was an LSD flash. That's all it was.
Yeah,
LSD and Coke.
I've never even been drunk, so this is the closest thing I've been to on drugs then.
It's like a more enjoyable version of this.
All right, guys.
Yeah,
so as usual, I remember. You guys remember the first time you ever saw this film? Did you see it when you were younger? Or?
No, I was actually pretty drunk trying to watch it this time, and I couldn't stay conscious. I couldn't possibly get enough alcohol in me to justify continuing to watch this movie. I'm not sure if I went to sleep or I was blacking out. I might have been blackout drunk. Yeah, fuck it. I think I was.
You didn't imagine all of this. It actually happened.
I know. That's awful.
I want to see Art's remake of this movie. That fine line between where he was in reality watching this movie and its mentality state. Yeah.
Oh, we'll get into that.
So I saw this movie years and years ago. I don't remember if it was on cable or what, but it had to be, in my guess, probably the 90s. I saw it on cable or something. What about you guys?
I actually think I saw this at the theater when I was a young kid. My mom took me and my sister. My sister's a hardcore Olivia Newton-John fan at the time, mostly because of Grease and whatever. So I have these faint childhood memories of this, and then I saw it again when I was like in junior high. It came on like KPTX or Channel 12 out of Portland, Oregon on a Tuesday afternoon when I was in junior high, and I had stayed home sick from school.
Oh boy.
So I was sick, so I watched it. So maybe it made more sense to me then.
That's probably the ideal state to be in to watch this movie is ill and drugged up.
Not Quill and Xanadu.
I knew of this movie. I was born in '77, so I was too young to have really seen this when it came out. But I knew of this movie. I just never saw it until 2 nights ago. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And, so I went into this completely raw.
Evil.
I went into this raw and angry. Oof. And I'm, like you guys know, I'm Mr. Positivity. I can look at a lot of different movies that we've covered already and glean some joy from them, even if they're terrible, and point out the good parts as well as the bad. This movie just sucks. This movie is a piece of dog shit, but it's not even like your dog's shit. It's like dog shit that you're walking down the road and you see some dog shit, but you don't even care enough about that shit to do anything about it. You're just like, oh yeah, there's some dog shit. I'm just gonna keep on walking. That's this movie.
I actually feel like we stopped while we're walking down the sidewalk and we find the dog shit. I feel like after watching this movie, we tasted the dog shit to make sure it was dog shit.
Ew.
And then we immediately regretted that decision.
Pretty much.
Yeah, this one was hard. This was a hard one to get through.
Yeah, I'm out of booze.
I'm out of booze.
And I didn't even watch it drinking or imbibing in anything. So
Well, I couldn't do it sober. There was no way.
I think had you done it sober, your notes probably would have been just as angry as mine.
My notes look like this. That's it. I'm still trying to figure out what the fuck I wrote.
My notes are all exclamation points and capitals.
I can't believe you guys took notes.
It took me 4 tries to get through this movie because I kept blacking out.
Well, I went into it pretty serious, and I was like, the first 4 or 5 notes I'm writing, like, hey, what's going on with this? Hey, why is he dressed like a cowboy? Why isn't he actually doing any work? What's the point of this guy? Where did she come from? And then it just devolved into just like, fuck this movie. I hate this. Ugh. Exclamation points. This feels like everyone is in a different movie.
Wow. All right.
Poor Gene Kelly too. Like I felt like she was acting under duress in this movie.
I think there was a reason this was his last movie.
Was he blackmailed? It's like,
I felt like he was kidnapped, and they were like, "You're going to do this movie, or we're going to kill your grandkids."
Yeah, exactly.
Hold on, wait.
And then finding out that they made him dance even after he signed on not to dance. You said, Dean.
Well, I'll get to that. Because I don't know.
That just adds to the whole held hostage theory.
I don't know about you guys, but while I was researching this, I found a very interesting documentary about the making of this film. And,
wow. And somebody spent the time to make a documentary about the movie.
I don't know if we can bag on them. Look what we're doing right now.
Yeah, touche.
But
you're welcome, guys.
But when we get there, it's interesting. So let's start it off. So I will say this: the opening is really cool. I love how they do the what is it? The Universal Planet, the logo, and as the aircraft goes around, it's different eras, 1940 style. I thought that was really cool.
I thought that was one of the few things that I did think was appealing about this movie. I feel like it's wasted on this movie, though. Like, I would rather see that at the beginning of a better movie because I like that, the going through the years, kind of like its evolution.
Right.
The flying saucer got a little bit hokey, but
it was cool up until the saucer.
Yeah.
I was actually rethinking my choices in life at that point, so I missed.
So we open up with excuse me. We open up with Sonny, and he's painting, and he sucks, and he what is it he says when he leans out the window? What the fuck does he say? The first time you hear him say anything, it's what is it? Something like, I should have done something else. He rips up the paint.
It was something like, I suck, and that's what I get for having dreams, or
yeah,
what are guys like me having dreams for? It was some inane garbage.
Yeah, guys like me don't deserve dreams or something. He rips it up, the painting he's doing, and he throws it out the window. By the way, it is painfully obvious that whoever was drawing that was not him.
No, I'm pretty sure it was the guy from Aha. Like, that's what they were trying to do, but yeah, they fucking failed.
So
and Sonny is played by Michael Beck, and Michael Beck's been in some pretty good stuff. I mean, he was,
but not this.
And he was along with Olivia Newton-John and Gene Kelly are all way too good for this movie. He was Swan in The Warriors, and I mean, he was in Megaforce, and he was in just a bunch of stuff.
This movie started off life as it was going to be a cheap, low-budget movie just on the roller skating fad in California at that time.
Ugh.
And that's what it was going to be. And they knew it was going to be a low-budget, just a quick movie. And then for some reason, Olivia Newton-John signed on to it. The script went through 6 rewrites. 6. And they were still doing tweaks while they were filming.
Wow.
This
has the feeling of a movie that was written 6 times, because it feels like they took a script, threw it up in the air, and lost some of the pages. and they picked up what they could, and we're like, fuck it, this one got ran over by a truck, but whatever, we'll have him play clarinet on the beach.
So,
Yeah, that whole clarinet scene, that's just so weird. He just randomly walks up to some guy who's minding his own business.
hold on. Wait. So, okay, so he rips up the painting, throws it out, and I'm sorry, it's some of the worst animation I've ever seen. The paper's blowing in the wind. And of course, it comes up to the mural, this huge mural on the side of the building. Now, whoever did the artwork for this was really good. Whoever did the paintings and whatnot. But who in the hell in Venice Beach in 1980 has a huge mural of muses on the side of the building with this 70s field jukebox in the background? It looks like something of painted on the side of a van, like van art from the 70s.
I feel like that honestly wasn't that outlandish to me. I feel like that's probably what Venice looked like in 1980. I mean, disco was huge, and I say that not facetiously. That was probably a very normal thing.
That actually wasn't on a building, though. That was just a painting that they photoed. Yeah, so it was actually something that they. You look around the edges, you can see it's matted on film magic. So it was never really on the side of a building anywhere.
I never noticed. Okay. So
that would look weird now. I don't think that 40 years ago, I don't think that would have been, crazy.
Yeah, but here in Silverton, Oregon, 40 years ago, we had someone paint a rainbow on the side of a building, and it's like, oh, man, a unicorn. That was normal. That was
I grew up
Silverton,
near
Oregon.
the beach. So I'm used to that kind of stuff. I grew up near the beach in Florida, so there's all kinds of like wacky, design and stuff like that. I just would have seen that, and I would have been like, oh, California, disco.
So here we get the first dance number with the muses. And, I'm assuming people can see this. It's a busy street. Because if you remember later, there's a seating area directly across. So in the middle of the day, no one fucking noticed these 9 chicks come to life and start like glowing and dancing in the middle of an alley.
Well, people were still coming down from the 60s and 70s, man. Fuck, that shit happens all the time.
They probably knew him by name. Oh, there's Brenda.
There's Brenda. And as the I don't know.
Well, that's the thing too. Is like this is supposed to be like Venice Beach or something.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up in California or anything, but my back in my mind of Venice Beach is like, or any beach in California is where all the freaks and weirdos kind of hang out.
Right.
Where they're roller skating and there's the guy in his underwear and there's the Rasta guy and there's the guy playing his guitar and there's all these characters. So I feel like that probably wouldn't have, if it was small town America, that would have been a different story. But I feel like, especially at that time, I don't feel like it was like, oh my God, zoinks, look at them. Granted, they're glowing and
they're covered in neon.
Doing a whole dance routine, but
well, they also like move at super speed at times when there's just an animated glow.
Yeah.
You know what would have been great is if someone needs to take that scene and then just get Photoshop or mix in and get the Ghostbusters in there and just start shooting their proton packs at them.
That would have been a more entertaining movie. I'll plop down $10 to see that.
Yeah, see, someone needs to go back and just like redo Xanadu by adding in scenes from other movies. It's already a cluster, so why not make it more so?
I don't think anybody would notice.
Probably not. They probably might win an Oscar.
I think this movie needs a giant alligator to just eat everyone.
So, like you said, you see the muses. They're, like Russ said, they're flying around. They all fly up in the sky. And then we see Sonny on his way to work. And as he's walking through, he says it's a park. Okay. As he's walking through the park, Olivia Newton-John appears behind him on roller skates now. She's not dancing, just appears in roller skates, bumps into him, kisses him, and then takes off. And if I remember correctly, doesn't she disappear? She like turns into light again and flies away.
Yeah.
Again, no reaction from anyone around her. Now, I will say, go ahead.
Well, I don't know if anybody else can see her because she's his muse, right? Like his muse. So I don't know if anybody else is even conscious of her being here.
So imagine what everybody else saw.
Wouldn't he have been like, he just got kissed by this girl? Wouldn't he be like looking at her and then see her turn into a white light?
Right. Everybody else is looking at a schizophrenic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're looking at a guy that's making out with the air.
Right.
How entertaining. That would actually make for a better movie.
That would be great. You know, they should go back special edition and have it just all be a nightmare.
Oh, God.
It could be a Jacob's Ladder scenario.
Oh, no.
Or he imagined this whole thing. Oh man, God. I don't know. I had a thought there and it left.
So, like I said, she kisses him. He gets to work. And work. First of all, I will say this. I wish I would have looked it up. Did anyone look up what car he's driving?
It's a Woody, isn't it?
Yeah. Is it from the 40s or the 50s? Oh, that's a beautiful looking car.
Probably be more like the 40s, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Late 40s, I think. It's like a Woody wagon or Woody Roadster or a Truckster or something. I don't know the exact model, but I wrote that down too. I'm like, why in the hell is he driving that car? If he's a starving artist,
how can you
even in
afford
1980, that was a valuable ass car.
Right. That was my next point. Is like, how could he afford? Okay, not only how can he afford that car, how can he afford the apartment he's in?
Yeah,
it's
he
like
lives on the beach in
right.
California.
So he goes in, and you see they explain that all he does is he takes album covers and enlarges them for what's the word I'm looking for? Advertisements and whatnot.
Doesn't Xerox also do that?
Well, I feel like this predates a lot of technology that came out in the 80s where it's like, hey, we don't need people to hand paint these anymore. We can just photocopy them.
Right.
It's kind of like people used to hand paint billboards too. And
yeah,
that went the way of the dodo in the mid 80s.
Mm-hmm. So you find out he's essentially a screw up. He hates his boss, and he's there for what? 5 minutes? Oh, and let me back up. Let me back up for a minute. Wait, the piece he's working on, of course, his boss tosses him down a record cover by a band called the Nine Sisters, and there is Olivia Newton-John on the cover, and he's flabbergasted. This is the chick I just kissed. I gotta find her. So he's there.
Yeah, screw this job.
Yeah. So he had to beg to get his job back. And if I remember correctly, the boss takes him up into his office, and he says, if you buckle down, you can do it. This is what I tell you to do. Paint it how you see it. And he's like, look at me. He's like, I did this piece of art over here, but I got out of it. I make really good money. You can too. You're smart enough to do it, but you just got to buckle down. And of course he doesn't.
Yeah. Speaking of that real quick, they make it sound like the boss is a complete ass.
Right.
The boss seems like he's probably a cool guy. It's just that Sonny's the ass.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they paint him in this negative light like he's some kind of ball buster, and it's like, no, he's just trying to run his business.
Yeah, he just didn't yell at him. He's like, hey, come on up, and then he points out how he did art, and Sonny's like, I think you did the right thing. It's like, smart ass.
Yeah.
It's like, you might not like his art, but still, you don't have to be a douche about it.
Well, I think that was the kind of the remnants of that hippie, 70s, 60s hippie anti-establishment, like, oh, he's the boss man. We don't like him. Like, everybody sucks if they're not a free spirit. Yeah, it's fucking dumb. Go back to the beach and paint garbage, weirdo.
So, I mean, he's literally there for what, 10 minutes? And he's like, I got to find her.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, he takes off.
He just runs around randomly until he finds her.
Well, he leaves and he's down at the beach, and this is where he meets Gene Kelly. Now,
oh yeah, that's right. He runs into him.
I think he's Pan.
Pan?
Yep.
Interesting.
If you think about it, if the muses in this movie are quote unquote real, I think he's Pan. Either doesn't realize it or is there to screw with that guy or push him farther.
I abandoned all the mythology in this, but I guess yeah, that makes sense.
That's interesting. I believe it or not, I actually looked up the muses just to see, but I'll get there. But and let's face it, Gene Kelly did this movie for a paycheck. There's no other way we can explain this, but if there is a shining spot in this movie, it's Gene Kelly.
Well, I mean, he's Gene Kelly, and
Right.
He's a legend, and he's amazing. But there's, like you said, there's no way he read this script and was like, I'd like to do this project. Like that script literally had an envelope with money filled when he received it.
So I guess when he signed on for this, after he signed on is when they did another rewrite. How they got him, I have no idea. But it went through a major overhaul once they got Olivia Newton-John, because she was the first big star to sign on to it, and then somehow they got Gene Kelly.
She was, I mean, I don't think we can punctuate that enough how popular she was around this time. In the late 70s, going into the early 80s, I mean, she was a phenomenon.
Yep.
She was huge. She had hit singles. She was in Grease, obviously. But I mean, she was the it girl for years. And so, yeah, I mean, once they got her, it became a juggernaut of it. Basically, to me, this movie is a Olivia Newton-John sizzle reel for like, hey, look, we got her, and look at all this stuff she can do. Especially that medley at the end, but we'll get to that.
Right. But no, forgive me, I didn't look it up. The album Physical came after this, correct?
After this, yeah. That was 81, 82, I think.
Okay, so just after this. Because this came out in 80, so it's filmed in, 79? Okay. So he meets Gene Kelly, and they talk, which is kind of nice. And then as he's standing there, he sees her again. And he's like, hey, you're cool, but let me go chase after this chick. So he jumps on a Vespa, and who in their right mind is going to let some dude just take a Vespa? Oh, yeah, here you go. Go ahead.
Yeah, she was smiling. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, use it. You're cute.
Yeah, that was a little jarring. It's like, I promise I'll bring it back. Okay, whatever.
So, now, she's on roller skates, but he still can't keep up with her. He gets to the end of the pier and flies right into the water. Now, again, you might have answered. I think you answered my question here, Matt, because he looks back and sees her because she's standing to the left by that building when she waits, and that's when he goes off into the pier. My notes are like, no one saw her do, and she turns into light and flies away. No one saw her do this.
Yeah, I think he's the only one that can see her.
Okay.
Yeah, that was what I got from it, but I mean, who knows? I'm not watching it again to find out.
Yeah,
So
totally not worth it.
Gene Kelly pulls him out of the water, and
How did Gene Kelly get there so fast?
good question. I didn't think about that. Maybe
I
go.
think he's Pan.
Yeah, like
Maybe
Martin
you're
said,
right
maybe
there, Art. Go ahead.
Maybe no one else can see him too. I mean,
Well, no.
if he was paying, does these muses have money too then? Because they obviously needed money. Because Sonny sure didn't build Xanadu, or was it just a figment of his imagination again?
Well, no. He says later when he went into the family construction business, and that's how he made his money in construction. So, but anyway,
if it's
go
Pan,
ahead.
you wouldn't really.
No.
I think that shoots holes in the Pan theory. I think is because he had to bankroll that. So I don't know.
Well, so they're having coffee in the little coffee shop, and Sonny never touches his. But anyhow, do you notice? Is it just me, or at this point in the film, it looks like Gene Kelly's hiding something from it? The way he's talking, especially when they're
A little bit,
talking,
yeah.
it's like he knows something that he's not telling Sonny.
Like the movie sucks.
Beyond that, but especially when they talk about, he's like, because he's like, I'm gonna find her. He's like, you might not want to do that. Something to that effect. You know, that
Oh,
might not,
yeah.
that
That's
might
right.
not, that might not be the best option here because he's been in Sonny's shoes, but we don't know this yet.
Huh. I feel like his character has the kind of haunted. I had it all in my hands, and I ignored it for 35 years or whatever.
Right.
Because he keeps making reference to that, like I haven't taken a chance since 1945,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like he's put there. I feel like to represent the older version of Sonny from the
Okay.
40s that has made the mistakes of not chasing his dreams or whatever, and he's the outcome. He's the here's what you're going to become if you don't go for it. And that's why Sonny has the old car, and that's why he knows who Glenn Dorsey is, or Glenn Miller. And that's why they have such a bond. It's like, oh, you're an old soul, and you're a old man that still wants to be young, like still has that young, youthful thing.
Well, in that vein, I mean, if this is the outcome Sonny will get, did you see his house? Okay,
Yeah, I know. Now it's
Yeah,
like,
that's fine.
Yeah, but they kind of
Sweetheart.
they play that down though. It's not like he's living in luxury. I mean, he's got a nice place and he's got money, obviously, but he's not happy.
I
And
see.
he's basically, I feel like he's the I buckled down and look what all I have, but I don't have my dreams, so it's all hollow.
Okay.
And I
see
feel
where
like
you're
that's the moral that it's trying to teach, even though it's inane.
You realize Matt probably just went deeper in Xanadu than anyone
Anyone
else
ever
has.
has.
And I didn't even have that as a note. I'm just giving it some kind of benefit for some god awful reason.
So next, let's see here. So next, he meets with his buddy, who he paints his van again. You know, the '70s, the painted vans were the thing. And when he says, "Hey, can you give me a?" At first, he's like, "Well, which way are you going?" "I'm going east." "Well, I'm going west. Can you give me a ride?" "Okay, fine." I'm expecting him to get in the passenger side. No, he's on fucking roller skates, a la Back to the Future, hanging on the back of this van.
Oh, there's another thing. We totally need to have like someone edit in some Back to the Future stuff right there in that movie.
or
The
just the music.
The music.
Yeah, the power of love.
So,
Don't need money. Don't
God.
need story.
Don't need anything. We're making this movie.
so as they're driving down the street, they just happen to go past the American Theater, and he says, "Oh, I'll stop here." Now, and of course, this is the exact same theater that's on the front of the record cover by the Nine Sisters.
Yeah, the old Pan Pacific
Thank you.
Auditorium.
Yeah, go ahead, take it, Russ. You know more about this than I do. It's
See,
a
this is
gorgeous
why
Art Deco movie, or Art Deco.
See, that's
theater.
why I actually have this. The best part of the entire movie is right here for me is when they show the footage of that building. It was built in like 1935, Art Deco, and they used it. They actually had it in a couple car music videos, a couple other music videos throughout, 70s and 80s. And then they were going to restore it in 1989, and it burned down the day before they started the restoration. But yeah, that whole building is just what makes why I've watched the movie more than once, and it's mostly because that little scene.
Well,
It's a beautiful building too.
Oh, it is. I love Art Deco stuff anyhow, but interestingly, have any of you, well, Matt, you probably have any of you guys ever been to Disney?
Oh yeah.
It's been a while, but
You notice the main the main gate you're going through? It looks like the theater.
yeah.
Yeah, they
I
recreated it. There's a couple other places around the world that's done the same thing, and where the building was, they created the Pan Pacific. Something they named after it, and they have one of the pillars that they recreated.
really.
But yeah, there's a lot of times people say, "Oh, they saved the pillars." No, those things were toast. They're gone. Everything was gone in the fire.
Did they know what started the fire, or
Uh no, they say that there were homeless people that had been living in there, and they assumed that maybe someone had started a campfire. But we're talking, it was like summertime in California, so I don't know why they'd need a fire to keep warm. But
It does get chilly at night there.
mm-hmm.
well,
Yeah.
it's like it's the timing of it all probably is something else involved, more sinister. Of course,
Insurance fire.
Insurance fire. Yep.
yeah, because the building was all wood. It was a wood structure built in 1935, and even restoring it, probably would have cost
A fortune. But and again, this is now the song in here is probably one of the bigger hits from this movie. The song "Magic."
It's the only one
Yeah.
that holds up, in my opinion. It's still a great song. The other ones are, very much a product of their time. But yeah, I know we'll probably get into the soundtrack, but one of the few highlights of this movie is the soundtrack, and it was humongous. And Jeff Lynne and ELO did a lot. They did a lot of it, and the scoring and stuff like that. So there's a pedigree there. It's good music. It's just
sadly
sadly it's saddled into this movie.
which then actually probably kind of put the end to ELO and Olivia Newton-John to a degree, because her career, I think she had a couple hits, 81, 82, and then ELO was pretty much.
She limped into the 80s. She didn't do a whole lot of movies. She did Two of a Kind with or no, is that what it? No, is that what it was called? Two of a Kind, I think, with John Travolta.
Yeah,
and
and
she
the
had
only
a couple of
reason
hits.
and that Two of a Kind only had any following because everyone's like, "Oh, it's a Grease reunion."
Yeah. Well, and they had that big song from that movie too, "Twist of Fate." That was huge. So I feel like that they use that in the trailer for that too, just to get people to go watch it. But yeah, this movie hurt. They created the Golden Raspberries for this movie.
I was just about to bring this up.
What else can you say?
So again, the skating scene with them in here, and then we move to probably my favorite scene in the whole movie. Sonny goes back to see Gene Kelly, and for the life of me, Danny McClain, right? Yeah, it's
Danny McBride, McClain, Danny
McClain. Anyway, so he goes to his house to see him. First of all, it's a gorgeous house. It's got gold lame everywhere, and this is probably my favorite scene in the whole film. There's after they talk, he shows Danny all his memorabilia throughout the years, how he played with Glenn Miller and all these big band acts from the 40s. He mentions how he had a small club in New York, but it just didn't work out. And so when he leaves, he's in this large, what do you call it, like a living room, or I don't know what you would call this room, but he does a 1940s dance number with Olivia Newton-John, Gene Kelly. And this was almost not in the film. When Gene Kelly signed on, he said specifically, "No dancing. I will be in this movie, but I will not dance." And months after the movie had wrapped, they realized that there was no big interaction with Olivia Newton-John and Gene Kelly. So they approached him and said, would you be willing to do a dance number with her? And he did it on one condition. He's like, I will do it. It has to be a closed set. No one is allowed on, and only, her, the choreographer, cameraman, sound guy, and a few people are allowed on set, but that's it. No one else is allowed on set. And he choreographed that entire scene. Gene Kelly choreographed that whole scene. In fact, the choreographer basically gave control to him, and what he did was, let me back up for a second. The choreographer and Gene Kelly were after this movie became really good friends. They were friends until Gene Kelly died in like 93, 94. He's like, he was my mentor. He taught me how to shoot dance for the lens. And what Gene Kelly would do is that entire dance scene was centered on Olivia Newton-John. He played to her strengths and weaknesses. And I think it's one of the, I'm not a musical fan. I'm no fan of musicals or dance numbers, but it's just really cool to see. But then again, I'm a sucker for the 1940s. So, but to watch Gene Kelly dance like that is, he's fluid. And he was what, in his 70s at that point?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, late 60s, early 70s, I think. Yeah.
I think he was like 73. I think when I was talking to Dean the other day about this, I think we figured out he was somewhere around
Yeah,
73.
And to be able to move like that at that age, it's just phenomenal. And it's almost sad the way that was shot, because at the very end, she jumps into his arms, and he's got this huge smile on his face, and then it fades out to he's standing in the living room with his arms up, and there's nothing there.
Yeah.
And he just kind of sits down in that chair and just, for lack of a better word, muses on what he just thought, what he just experienced. Any other thoughts?
She mused for him.
Yep. And in fact, it's funny because before this happens, when Sonny's talking to him, he's flipping through that record album, and you see her as the singer for his band in the 40s. So, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think that's her musing for him back then.
Yes.
Like she's doing for Sonny currently.
Right.
In the film. So that's why I think that's why I think nobody else can see her except for who she's, like, her target. And I think that's him doing that dance scene in the movie is him remembering her from when he was young. And being his muse for when he was, making music and doing his whole thing. Which that just reinforces my idea that he's just a different version of Sonny, from the past. Not the same person, but he's a target from 35 years ago that's getting like a second chance, basically.
Right. But
it is that. It's kind of, again, I feel like I'm giving it way more credit than it deserves.
Right. But if there is a bright spot in this movie, that's it. I at least for me, that is the bright spot in this movie. That whole dance number with Gene Kelly.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree, but it's also, I mean, you could have Gene Kelly dancing in an insurance seminar and it'd be great. So, it's definitely the bright spot, but, that kind of goes hand in hand with having Gene Kelly in your project.
So, in a world with Gene Kelly instead of Wilford Brimley doing the Liberty Medical commercials.
I could handle that. So,
Gene Kelly telling you to eat your oatmeal.
Yeah. Stuff tastes like shit pudding.
Don't get diabetes. You can dance like me if you eat oatmeal.
Well, truth be told, I kind of, living with my grandmother, my grandma was always watching these 1940s, 50s, dance numbers. And as a kid, I would sometimes watch them with her. So I knew who Gene Kelly was when I was little, but anyway, I digress. So let's see. Next week, move on to, they kind of like have a date night with Kira and Sonny. This is when they get into the second probably biggest song from the soundtrack, Suddenly. They go to let's see what he's working on the painting, and she just fucking appears. You gotta admit, it's kind of creepy at one point because she just literally appears behind him in shadow, and then she disappears and comes around the other side of the painting and scares the hell out of him. I'm like, well, yeah, it'd scare the fuck out of me. You're supposed to be in there alone, and there's this chick. Anyways, so they're walking around, and then they go into the sound stage where there's the different sets. As he put it, oh, it's just pictures for inspiration. They go into the weird booth and turn everything on. I thought this was a neat number, especially I felt that at one point they're walking around and they get stuck in a section where it's raining, and they both pull out umbrellas, and Sonny does the flip, and then they flip around and put the umbrellas together. That's right out of Singing in the Rain.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like a small homage to Singing in the Rain.
Yeah, I was hoping that they weren't going to do a whole Singing in the Rain number because I felt that was going to be way too on the nose. But
right.
Yeah, I picked up on that and I was like, that's pretty cool. But, you know, that's where that ended for me.
Right. And then, you know, from there, next we see Sonny's car. He's got Danny with him, and he's showing, because, let me back up for a second. Danny asks him, he says, you know, why don't you help me find a place? Because he wants to open a club. He's like, I've had every real estate agent in the city. I can't find anything. You help me. Some rando dude he met on the beach is going to fucking help him. But now here he finds the theater. And I like this part because they're checking it out, and they're like, you know, this is well done. And this is when they envision what the club's going to look like. He's like, well, over here on the right, we can have like a big band set up, you know, and everyone's all done up. And then as in my notes here, as Sonny says, this is the 80s. Over here, we need these guys in orange jumpsuits.
Yeah, we need a rock band with orange jumpsuits.
Oh, gosh. When he goes orange jumpsuits, I just cringe. I'm like, what is this? Some kind of weird fetish?
Well, interestingly, in the documentary I was watching, they interviewed the choreographer for this. And I think this is one of the more unique numbers they did, because it starts off with on the right, they're showing music from big band music from the 40s, and then they intercut it with, which is the band that's playing there is the Tubes, by the way. The guys in orange, that's the Tubes. And they're playing like a more modern version, I guess, if you will, 80s synth pop, and with the dancers. And the whole thing, literally the two stages merge together as this one cohesive dance number. The choreographer, when he did this, when the two sides were rehearsing, they never met each other. They never saw what the other side was doing until the day they filmed it. And I don't know, I thought that was a really neat number where you take, because they're two totally different styles of music, but they were able to mesh them together so it worked cohesively. And the costuming was beautiful. I will say this for this movie, the costumes were well done. Right.
Sorry, I got a dog barking.
That's all good. So
I must have just got some packages.
That's all right. It's they refer to this as the 80s 40s mashup.
Well, yeah, and I feel like that was, you know, that's exactly what they were trying to do, and it marries up with Gene Kelly and Michael Beck's characters, that they're trying to, you know, it's like, oh, the 40s and the 80s, and they're not that far apart, and they're not that different, and, you know, even though they are, it's, you know, they're trying to kind of meet in the middle. With him saying, oh, I want a big band with tuxedos. No, I want a rock band with orange jumpsuits. And it's a little bit like, you know, you got your peanut butter in my chocolate. No, you got your chocolate in my peanut butter. And you know, and it's neat that they're trying to, because I mean, think about going back to 1980 now, and then what's popular now. It's not as much of a continental divide as it was between 1980 and 1940s.
Right.
It was a different world completely. And now I feel like music from 1980 and music from today is a hell of a lot more cohesive.
Sure.
It's a lot more similar.
Oh, I feel you. I got you.
Yeah, but they definitely were going for that theme in this movie.
Wouldn't it be sad? You mentioned the peanut butter and chocolate. If they got the idea from watching the old Reese's peanut butter commercial, like, let's do that for the movie. We'll call it Xanadu.
And out of nowhere, she appears and gives the quote from Kubla Khan for Xanadu. Out of nowhere, she just, what are we gonna call this place? We need an. She appears, and then he reciprocates. Let's call it Xanadu. Xanadu, yeah.
Because we all know that.
Xanadu. I was like, well, the first time I saw this, I had no clue what the hell that was. But,
well, why is a Greek muse, a Greek goddess, talking about Kubla Khan?
right?
Like, talk about mixing your mythologies. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, they couldn't call it Reese's.
Couldn't call it Reese's.
Let's call it Hammurabi, because Hammurabi's law. At this point, that's when I wrote down, like, fuck this movie. Like, what does this even mean?
It would have made more sense to call it Olympus.
Yeah. Or anything Greek.
Right. The Acropolis or whatever. So
Really, they should have named it Sonny's. It had that down home, simplistic.
Yeah, let's call it Danny's Place, because that's what I would have called it in the 40s. See, I mean, yeah, any of that makes more sense than Xanadu. But Xanadu's more cocaine disco sounding. It's more ethereal.
and it uses
It
an
has
X.
an X.
And it's got an X in it.
How often do you have a word starting with an X? I mean, come on. So
Yeah, they couldn't name it xylophone or xylophone.
Well, maybe they just really wanted to put this at the end of the alphabet.
Let's just drop
So
everything
that it's hard to
we're doing.
find.
Go open up a roller disco like that, because
Yeah. They knew 40 years later when people are scanning Netflix, it's Xanadu and then the movie Zulu. It's
Yeah.
So next we go in and Malone, he's all jazzed up now. He goes into his boss. He basically says, "Fuck you, I quit."
which again is such a douchebag move because the boss wasn't that bad.
Yeah. And he gave him his job back.
Yeah, and then out of nowhere he just quits.
And he's like, "I'm quitting again. Ha! And you all can have free drinks when I open this bar that will probably close in 2 months because."
Yeah, keep in mind that Sonny's not putting any money into this. He's just a creative. He's just a associate producer
He's a
on
partner.
this club, and Danny's got all the money. And it's basically like the only moral of this story is that you can be successful if you meet a rich eccentric guy on the beach and get him to like you. Like, that's all he does. That's all Sonny does in this movie, is he puts himself in a position where it's like, hey, you're pretty cool. I didn't know you were rich. Oh, neat. Oh, you want to open this thing and you want my help? Well, I don't know. Oh, okay. I guess I'll do it and I'll quit my job. It's like, there's no growth here.
You go back to the interaction when he first had with Gene Kelly on the beach. He was kind of a douche to him too because he's playing his clarinet and he's like, "You can play anything a little more upbeat."
Right.
Yeah. I feel like you're playing for dead people.
Like, if I was the dude, Gene Kelly should have been like, "Screw you, get the hell out of here, you beach bum. Go paint your album covers and
Fuck
Go
off.
paint your garbage, you stupid cowboy artist."
go
Yeah,
kiss your imaginary woman."
Yeah, go kiss your imaginary glowy skating woman. But like they bond over old music. That's it. Like that's all it takes to become a partner in a startup business venture.
I guess so.
Yeah, that point too, I was just like, it's like,
Yeah,
this is just so horribly written.
Now, interestingly, this next part, they didn't know how they wanted to film this. So
because that didn't show at all.
Oh yeah, yeah. But so at the last minute, the director was friends with Don Bluth, and he
Oh,
calls
the
him
cartoon.
and he calls him up and he says, "Hey, I'm doing this movie. Take a look at it. We need like filler here. Could you help me out?" And they interviewed in this documentary. They interviewed Don Bluth, and I'm trying to remember exactly what they were working on at the time. I think it was The Secret of Nim. They were right in the middle of working on The Secret of Nim, so they stop and do that and does this.
Oh, oh boy.
And,
I hate it even more now.
and he says he wanted to make sure, and the choreographer, it was the model they used for Sonny in the animation. For all of his movements and whatnot, they just drew over top of him, of course. So he's like, I'm actually in the movie. But
Ugh.
and I never noticed it until I saw the director and the choreographer claimed that this movie is the reason why leg warmers got popular in the 80s. Because no
And
one
it
was
had nothing to do with the aerobics craze of the early 80s.
but
People wanted to get physical.
but he said he claims that no one was wearing them until this movie came out. Now, when Olivia Newton-John is in her like Muse outfit, right? She's wearing leg warmers. And if you
I think
watch
her physical, her video for physical, and that whole album and everything, I think that had way more to do with
and I
leg
agree with you,
warmers than
but
this movie.
but if you go back and watch the animations part when she's like a fairy and then later she turns into, what is it, a bird?
Mm-hmm.
They're both wearing leg warmers. And I
will not go back and watch this.
I never would have noticed it
I believe you.
Don Bluth not mentioned it. I went, what? And then I watched it again. I'm like, I'll be damned, this bird's wearing fucking leg warmers. Anyway.
Oh, that's not the craziest thing in
animation
this movie.
sequence. Don Bluth, actually, from what I read, the movie Thumbelina that came out in the early '90s.
Mm-hmm.
My niece would watch it. They animated it. She loved it. There's a scene in it that they basically, Don Bluth Studio took what they did for Xanadu and just redid the animation, just the drawings or however they did it, almost frame for frame, just over the top cover change, kind of like how Filmation would change He-Man and Prince Adam, same animation drawings. Right. So it's like the Xanadu scene is in Thumbelina.
Well, might as well, if you already have this 5-10 minute segment done, you just redraw it and you got more of your project done.
Yeah, it's kind of like how Disney would do it too. You watch some of the especially with Robin Hood, they have scenes from Cinderella and the Aristocats and all that's redone for yeah.
So here we get to the show. They're the theater, and they're working on it. There's all the construction guys, and he's drinking the champagne, and of course Kira shows up wearing a green dress. Is the only time we ever see her in a green dress in this whole movie, which I find weird because they're consistent every time you see her. She's in the same outfit except for here, where she's wearing a green dress. Anyways,
I feel like that was probably Olivia going, I don't want to keep wearing the same thing in this movie. Like, can I get some costume changes, please?
Well, she has a metric shit ton at the end, but
yeah, oh yeah, that's what I mean. Is like they probably gave her a taste of it, and then in the end they're like, "Whoa, yeah, we'll dress her like a cowgirl and a peacock, and yeah, we'll do this whole thing."
So it's probably one of the glitz line. Where do we get this? Where can I need to get some glitz and pizzazz? What is it they both say? The what is it? The Glitz Emporium or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, well, they're telling Gene Kelly he needs to dress up different, and they take him shopping. Yeah, it's like the Glitz, yeah, and Galleria or something.
The shopping trip. The note I have on this is shopping on acid.
Where the
That's
fuck do those
all-
people come from? Those weirdos.
Right. It's like
And
all the
why are they
men.
in all the clothing racks? It's like the kids that went missing in 10 years prior, and the clothing racks they hid in them are now coming out.
These are all the kids El Hihi hasn't gotten to yet.
They were hiding from him.
No shit.
This is one of the more bizarre scenes in this whole movie. Now, I did like seeing Gene Kelly. He danced a little in the different outfits, which I thought was cool. And that 1940 Ford, that pink Ford that pulled up in the back was really cool. But this whole thing was a clusterfuck.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was it went hand in hand with what we talked about a little while ago, is the whole like meeting. It's the crossbreeding of the 40s and the 80s, where it's like, oh, we're going to dress Gene Kelly up like it's 1980, and he's hip and in style, and it's like those two things kind of meeting, ships crossing in the night kind of thing.
Right,
but they threw him in like a weird zoot suit too.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then he's got the weird cowboy fringe when he's coming out of that pink car. It's like, why? And then he's walking around a giant pinball machine. What the fuck is that? I thought he was in a clothing store.
I'm totally ripping off Elton John and Pinball Wizard from Tommy right there is what I got. Trying and failing, the eccentric wardrobe and pinball, and come on, it's going to be right up there with Tommy now, because they got Gene Kelly hitting pinball bumpers.
Yeah.
And the whole thing with the chicken dressed like a spider crawling under those chicks' legs.
Yeah, that is
what
probably
the fuck?
That's what nightmares are made of.
That's where the acid trip goes bad. It's not like the movie
glitter and crawling.
Yeah, it's literally crawling under their legs. It's like, what are you?
And was that a woman or was that a man?
I thought it was a guy, but
yeah, that's what I thought at first, and then it's like, is it a woman or is it a guy? And either way, it's like, this 2021 doesn't matter. But back in 1980, that must have really messed with people. Everyone's quiet.
that would mess.
I don't even remember that part. I think I just like rage blacked out or something. I don't know. That doesn't even ring a bell.
It's like it's probably like 5 seconds of pure freak out, scary horror movie type of stuff. This guy's just crawling underneath a bunch of people's legs, wearing massive glitter makeup,
in a silver suit with spider webs all over it.
Yeah,
it's like all this.
It's fucked up. It's like it's so out of place. What are they trying to be, like avant-garde or something here? It's
absolutely. Yeah, I feel like that whole scene was like they were trying to, and keep in mind, 1980. This is when MTV first, was in its infancy.
Sure.
So I feel like they were probably influenced heavily by that whole movement, that avant-garde, like you said, like that video culture.
Joker,
where it's like, hey, if you're weird and wacky, then you're immediately cool no matter what you're doing.
What was that, Art?
Joker would have been proud. That's like the movie.
I don't know if it's art, but I like it.
Odd as it was. It already had a fucking cartoon in it. Then they add that bullshit. That was like the worst drunk I've ever had.
Oh man!
Seriously, like I came to during that part, and I'm like, "Fuck!" Chicken.
That's why Art's been sitting there. He's still in fear. He's been so quiet this review. He's just sitting there. Help me.
Yeah, I just can't get out of it.
So,
we should get a cardboard cutout of that crawling person and send it to
Art. No. Fucking no. So,
well, Halloween's right around the corner.
Oh, that would make great. Oh man, have a Halloween party Xanadu themed.
Terrible.
It would be. It's supposed to scare people. Scare people and create nightmares. Isn't that perfect?
So the next. Oh my God. So the next section here is we get Sonny and Kira in they're at Sonny's apartment, I believe, and they're talking, and he's trying to find out information about him. And where do you live? Oh, I live in an apartment on the second floor with my sisters. Well, who are your parents? Or what's your last name? I have the same last name as my parents. Well, who are your parents? They're my parents. She's purposely talking in circles. And then she drops the bomb on him and says, I'm a muse. And he's like, whatever. And I did find it was kind of little, it was a little hokey when she hands him the fucking dictionary and says, look it up, page 762. So he looks it up, and of course, do you believe me now, Sonny? And then he turns on the TV, and she appears in the movie he's watching, and the character in the movie says, Sonny, she's really, if the lady says she's a muse, she's a muse.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
I hate all of this. I hate all of this scene, all of this movie. It's just clunky garbage.
Yeah, I'll be honest. That scene there when the dictionary and the TV, I skipped over it. I remember it, and it was miserable.
Well, what do you mean we can't be together? You're a Greek goddess?
No, right now, I did. At least the movie got it right. There are 9 muses. And at one point, she starts to say her name. And she says Terp and then stops.
Turd. That's her name, Turd.
Turd.
I thought she meant like derp.
No, well, one of the muses is I looked it up because I wasn't sure if I can pronounce it. Terpsichore. She is the muse of dance, which would make sense. I would assume it would be singing, but okay. And her emblem is a lyra, or a lyre, I'm sorry. Now, do you guys know they did a stage version of this movie recently, right?
Why?
Oh, goody.
Yeah.
People actually pay money to see that?
Yes. And in the stage version,
My God, we're
they
fucked.
they switched her muse to Cleo, which is the muse of history, which doesn't make any fucking sense to me, but okay. So, like I said,
Of course.
Well, like anything of Xanadu is supposed to make sense.
So they're talking about it, and she says, we can't be together, and she just turns into light and disappears. So now Sonny's mopey, he's walking around, and he stumbles across the mural that they find at the beginning of the movie. On roller skates, this is an important part here, and he's looking at it, he skates to the other side, and he's looking at it some more, and then out of nowhere, he starts building up speed and goes through the fucking mural into limbo.
I don't think this really happened. I think he bashed his brains in, and the entire fucking movie was all in his head. It was coma induced.
Yeah, it's a Jacob's Ladder scenario at this point on. Like that's where he dies, and then he imagines everything else.
All
But
these
I don't know.
beach people are standing over him the entire time the movie story plays out in his head. Like,
Yeah.
Oh,
And
and maybe
motherfucker's dead.
the crawling spider dude is just one of the bugs going into his brain. It's like,
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, he's pumping blood out of his open gashed face from smashing into that wall, and yeah, the rest of the movie is just that residual bit of dream that we all have in the back of our brains, and the end.
Could you imagine?
It'd be a better movie that way.
Could you imagine? Because when he skates back to build up speed, there's like some benches and tables on the other side of the street, and there were people sitting there. If this were to happen in real life, could you imagine the looks on her? Why is this guy skating into a fucking wall?
Yeah, this isn't gonna end well.
Right.
I pull out the camera. Get ready to get the best photos of the aftermath.
So he goes through the wall, and he ends up. The only way I can I guess he's in limbo, because it's all black, and then the next thing you know, we have a floor looking like the inside of the monolith from 2001: A Space Odyssey meets disco, and Kira shows up, and I can't leave, and then you start hearing Zeus, and Sonny has balls to talk shit to Zeus.
I almost said goose.
Yeah, wrong movie.
Wrong movie.
Nobody talks shit to
But
Goose.
Zeus, by the way, is also the butler, the voice of the butler from the toy.
Yep, and Zeus also, he was one of the Quorum of 12 from the original Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
I recognized his voice immediately. I'm like, why do I know
Patrick
his voice?
McNee, yeah, he was John Steed in the Avengers.
No, that was, he has a weird name. Hold on.
Oh, wait,
Um,
that's, oh, yeah. You know
It's
what?
like
It was.
Hyatt. Damn it. Hold on. I didn't write it down. It's gonna drive me nuts. Xanadu.
So you're saying Sonny says, "Talk to me, Zeus."
Oh, nice. That's good. I
Yeah.
like that.
I do like that he has a line where Michael Beck says, "Hey, Zeus,"
Oh
which
God.
is how you pronounce Jesus in Spanish.
He was done
Hey,
by. Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible. God damn it. I'll find it in a minute here. But yeah, he was in like I said, he was in Battlestar. Damn it. I looked this up last night and it's not showing it to me.
It was a terrible voice for Zeus, put it that way.
Yes, it was too high
painfully
pitched,
British.
and it was way too high pitched.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's portraying Zeus as, first of all, like the room that they're in, it looks like an Olin Mills picture or something, where Sonny's like standing there, and then like she's like the floating head above him, where it's like yeah, and just the way Zeus is talking, Zeus's wife Hera, I guess, it's like, oh no, because I said so. Yeah, see,
It's
like,
Wilford Hyde White is the guy's name.
Zeus. Yep.
And I love how it's heavenly voice male. This is how in the credits, heavenly voice male. He even says he's Zeus. What, did they have to pay royalties to the Greek gods to use the fucking name?
Well,
Yeah.
didn't they have a scene where it's like, we don't go by those old-fashioned names
Yes,
these
yep.
days?
Yep.
And I just about, it was like
What
a
are you?
cross between.
What are you now,
eye-rolling.
Bob?
You may call me Ralph.
We don't want to pay the Greeks. We're not going to call him Zeus.
Right.
It's
So
probably
Wilford-
because at that point they didn't know what they were doing and who was who.
And then it goes into probably the worst musical number in the whole thing. That music number in that trippy fucking Olin Mills portrait is just the weirdest shit. And it's almost like, if you listen to the lyrics, it's almost like she's singing to her parents.
Mm-hmm.
Because normal people do that shit.
Well, she's a goddess. But and I do like the ending, because the Hera says to Zeus, come on, let her do it. It's just a moment. What does it matter? And then he's like, well, moment or forever, I forget. And then you see the stars come up, and then here we get to the finale.
Oh, Zeus, he's such a forgetful, all-knowing god.
Right.
Silly Zeus.
So, and then here we get to the ending, the grand finale, the ending, where it starts off.
God.
Thank you, Zeus.
Now,
Thank you, British Zeus.
Gene Kelly comes in skating. Everyone's, yeah, you're right. There was no patron earlier on when Gene Kelly's talking to like a reporter. he says, yeah, we're not having any stars. These are just going to be regular people coming to the club. There are no fucking regular people in this club.
No.
And they all feel like they work there.
Right.
They're all part of the show.
Nobody's there willingly.
And they show, Gene Kelly skating. And I guess when he saw a rough cut of this movie, he was pissed that you never see his feet, because he was an accomplished figure skater and roller skater. He was actually really mad that you never see his feet except once or twice through the whole thing while he's on skates.
Why does that matter? Like, did he think that people were going to think that he wasn't actually skating?
Yes, he thought that that audiences would think that this was fake, and he wanted to prove, yes, I can skate.
Oh my God.
I get it.
That's why he did
Nobody
the entire
called
movie.
Gene Kelly chicken.
That's why he did the movie. He's like, I can skate. That's the only reason why he did it. And then they cut out his feet. No wonder he's pissed. It's like, that's the only reason why I signed on to this horrible thing.
Well, I don't know. I mean, in some ways, I could see that. I mean, here he is. He's an accomplished dancer, choreographer, but he can skate too.
But he didn't want to dance in the movie. That's what doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And I feel like it kind of goes hand in hand with the fact that Gene Kelly's acting kind of like he's in a different movie this entire movie.
Hmm.
Maybe he thought that this was going to be a roller skating movie, full stop.
Well, you read the
And
script.
they're like, oh no, we're going to do all this other shit too.
Oh yeah, he read the script, but the script changed how many times? So
Six
they might have
times.
had him looking like some kind of super awesome speed skater, disco dancer guy, and next thing you know, he's just watching a guy crawl around like a spider.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
And it's like, oh, we're going to have a scene where you're shopping for clothes. Isn't that going to be great?
So we get into the whole clapping, Xanadu, Xanadu, okay, and with the dude, there were tightrope walkers, there was fucking trapeze artists, chicks swinging on their teeth.
Well, with the beginning where they're all chanting Xanadu, and the fact that they all have jackets on that said Xanadu on them, on the back, I felt like this was like one of those morning meetings they have at Walmart to get everybody hyped up for the day.
Or a cult.
Xanadu!
I was thinking it reminded me of like a cult. You just picture Jim Jones back there, maybe, or Walmart. It's about the same thing.
Yeah, interchangeable. They're like feeding him all this weird Kool-Aid, and
Well, you did notice when Gene
Jim
Kelly
Baker's taking notes.
oh God, when Gene Kelly hands him the drink at the end, it looks a lot like Kool-Aid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
A lot like Kool-Aid.
Drink this and hallucinate.
Oh,
It was all a dream.
now I will say this here, and then when we see Kira again, she appears in this slinky-looking modern. What would you call it? Just like a clubbing outfit, I guess, for lack of a better word. And where she does a reprieve of Xanadu, she starts singing the theme, which I thought was actually kind of cool. And she looks damn good in this outfit, but as it goes, it gets more bizarre.
She looks great through the whole movie. I mean, that's actually a line that his buddy that he works with the glasses actually says, and it made me laugh out loud, where he sees the album cover and he's like, wow, she looks great. Or no, I'm sorry. He says, wow, she's great looking.
I would hope.
I was like, who's ever said that about anybody? They're great looking.
Well,
And the amount of costume changes she goes through. So we start with the clubbing outfit with her hair down, and then what's next? We go into.
Oh God, there's so many.
The cowboy's not next, right? No, that comes
No.
later.
it's like the
That's like
What
the
is-
third or fourth one.
There's like an old timey, like I want to say like flapper girl style one.
Yep, that's it. Yep.
Yeah.
She looks like a cigarette girl from the 1940s. That I actually like. And then she jumps into this tiger print outfit with the shorts. I'm sorry, she looks like a cheap hooker. There's no other way to put it. She looks like a cheap hooker up there. And then it switches and she's in cowboy fringe.
Mhm.
What
doing
the
like a full-on hoedown song.
right? What the fuck? I mean,
Well, I
and
feel
it,
like that whole end scene is just a sizzle reel for her, and it's like, hey, she can do all of this. It really is. It's almost like a demo.
Yeah.
But that's what I felt like watching it. It was like, wow, yeah, we get it. Like, she's good at this. Like, she's a good singer. She's a good performer. She's great looking. Um,
and
But the movie sucked.
but the movie is shit.
I tell you though, the part that got me was when she's in the fucking cowboy fringe, and she walks over, and they slide that fake beer over, and she's supposed to take a drink out of it. There was nothing. It was like a fake. Now the other one, when was it like a bartender or whatever, when they knock it back, you can actually see the liquid she swallows. The one Olivia Newton-John had, nope, this thing was a total prop, and it was just so bad looking.
Well, they had to keep her pure because she was such a. That's what I remember most about her being a thing, was that she wasn't like, she had mass appeal because she wasn't slutty, and she wasn't dirty or anything like that. She was like this wholesome girl next door that was a singer and a dancer and everything else, but they had to kind of keep up that facade.
But then they put her in that tiger stripe.
Right.
Well, even that, I mean, even as hookery as that looked, it wasn't, she wasn't slutting it up in that. I don't feel like.
She made it look as wholesome as you possibly could.
Yeah, she looked like a wholesome whore.
And then the innuendo from Physical later on, but that's a whole nother episode. But okay, so we got and now we get the very last dance number, where it's all of her sisters. Now, if you watch, her sisters appear in different spots through the whole thing in the background. The other muses, they're all there, but you have to watch for them.
Yeah.
I don't
I'll
think
have to take your
really
word for
wants
it.
to do that.
And then,
I gotta give you props on dedication for doing that, because I've seen this probably more than you have, and I didn't even notice that except for the end scene where it's obvious that they're everywhere.
They all appear and they all do this dance number. Now, I will say this: of all the outfits she wears in this whole movie, I like the Muse dress. I think it's, anyways. Never mind.
She looks the best in that. I mean, she just looks otherworldly and like classy beauty. Like she looks amazing in this movie.
And
it's
angelic
one of the few
almost.
positives. Yeah, and the boots and even the roller skates, like the whole aesthetic of that just works, especially for that time period.
And what I find truly bizarre is they do this whole number, of course, in her sisters transform and the light fly up, and she's on that pedestal in the middle. And did you notice it's just her and Sonny, and there's no one else in the place? It's fucking empty. And then all of a sudden, boom, people appear and they're dancing. Okay. And then she walks up as a barmaid going, "Would you like a drink?" It's like you said, it's like she completely forgot about him.
Yeah.
And the movie,
I mean, it's par for the course for this movie because nothing makes sense. It's a whole lot of just things happening because.
And they're trying to make it seem like it's romantic or something, that she gets to come back. But that's not her. That's just a clone of her or something. And he's okay with that, which tells you his love for her was never real. He's just like, hey, she looks good.
She's great looking. I'll take her.
And I tell you, like I said, I found a documentary on this. It's on YouTube if you want to find it.
Ooh.
But
that's okay. We'll take your word for it.
Yeah. Hard pass. Hard pass.
The executive producer in this movie swears it would have done better had it been released in more theaters.
Oh, okay.
It was only released in like 240 theaters nationwide, and he swears it would have been a bigger hit. No, dude, there's a reason why people didn't want the movie in theaters.
Yeah, the theaters can pick and choose. But he is right, because there's probably 2 or 3 grandmas out there that watch the movie no matter what they are. So they might have got an extra $100 or $2, you know.
But what's crazy is the fan following for this movie. There is a whole community of. I'm not saying it's as big as Star Wars here. That's not what I mean. But
who are these people?
Seriously, they interviewed some in this documentary. They interviewed some of these people, and they're just as ravenous as Star Wars fans for this movie.
It can be, yeah. I've encountered them because I love that building so much that I sit there and have ended up in a couple Xanadu message boards and what have you over the years.
Oh, good Lord.
Well, mostly because they have, like, you know, Google search the building, and people have photos that they took of the building after the movie because they become instant fans. And so I'm sitting there looking at some of these photos, and when you look at photos, you come across their posts, and then you're like,
right.
Oh gosh, those freaking insane idiots. Sorry, people, we're probably gonna have hate now because I just call them.
Yeah, we just started a war with all the Xanadu fans.
Oh no.
Quick,
but you know,
we love this movie. Please don't kill us, because they're the type that probably would show up on your doorstep dressed as the creepy crawly spider dude and be like, "We're gonna kill you."
With a shotgun.
No,
I
no,
heard you've been talking shit about my movie.
Probably glitter blowguns or something.
Oh.
They'll give us makeovers.
This movie would have done better. You know, it cost $20 million to make. To put that into perspective, Raiders of the Lost Ark cost $20 million. Star Wars cost $11 million. I mean, this was not a cheap movie, but it looks like a cheap movie. And I mean, I watch. I get fascinated by this with the budget of certain movies, where it's like, where did the money go? Like, where did they put the money for this? Because if you take out all of the animated glowy effects and the animation by Don Bluth, like, where did they spend the money on this movie?
It went up their nose.
Yeah. Cocaine.
Costumes. You got to admit.
Yeah, that ain't $20 million worth of
Oh,
costumes.
no. But I'm willing to bet a huge chunk of this went towards wardrobe.
It could be.
I don't know. I'll say it again. Star Wars cost $11 million.
Yeah. And they had custom-made masks.
Yeah, they had creature effects, and they had, I mean...
A lot of the costumes, it looked like they just cut up some leotard and sprinkled glitter on them.
Yeah, and you got to remember how cheap clothes were back then.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get where that, I mean, unless they paid Gene Kelly $10 million, I don't understand.
You probably got $15 million.
But I mean, the going rate at that point for, I mean, the biggest Hollywood stars wasn't even 10 million.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's just ludicrous that movie cost that much money for what it was.
I had read somewhere that they said that stage, the very end stage with all the lights, and given 1980 technology, I see where it would be expensive, but they said that alone was about $1 million. But then you stop and you think, you look at Jabba the Hutt, he cost like $500,000 to make, and he was way cooler.
Right. Yeah.
Way better technology.
One has heavily influenced pop culture for the next 40 years, and one is a complete shit show.
Yeah. You know, it's like, why would they spend so much on a stage? The disco era was dying, and they basically made a rotating disco stage.
Yeah, I mean, you can feel the '70s influences in this movie. There's no doubt about it. But go ahead, Matt.
Well, I was going to say, if this movie came out 2 years prior, it would have been a much bigger success. This movie bookended the end of disco, pretty much. Disco was very much a fad, but it was, I want to say by '81, that disco was dead.
They say
Xanadu might have killed disco.
Well, they say
Ross.
Go ahead.
So I was just saying, you know, this could have been what the final nail in the coffin for disco, and in that case, we need to say thank you, Xanadu, for finishing off disco.
Well, they do say that when disco died is when they did that. It was in a
Can't Stop the
ballpark.
Music.
Yeah, and they blew up all the records on a baseball field.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
It was a promotion for a I'll have to look it up. It was a promotion for a radio station. I want to say it was in Chicago, I think. And they invited everyone to come and take their disco records, and they literally blew them up on the field before a baseball game. And believe it or not, I've read some historians that said that event marked the official death of disco.
I don't know.
So
I actually haven't heard that, but I am gonna have to Google that because it sounds really cool. I want to see a bunch. Do they have video footage of them blowing him up?
Yes, there's footage.
Yeah. Could you imagine if you're like someone in the crowd that got killed by shrapnel of vinyl?
You're killed by a fucking Bee Gees album.
They're just sitting there with a disc in their head.
So, as we usually do, guys, how do we rate this movie? Realistically, 1 through 10.
I rated a 1 because I have to. Because I've never been so happy for a movie to be over. When the credits rolled, I shit you not, I was like, yes, thank you.
Did you keep
I'm
checking
done.
your time as you're watching? It's like, okay, 3 more minutes. 2 more.
Like I got up off the couch like I just got released from prison. I was like strolling out of the room like, thank God I'm going to bed. Yeah, I hate this movie. I thought it was just absolute crap. My 2 positives about this movie are that Olivia Newton-John looks fantastic. And she did it. I mean, she was a phenomenon at the time, and this was very much her vehicle. I think her and Gene Kelly did the best with what they had in this film. And the music is, I mean, it was I want to say multi-platinum record soundtrack for this. And, you know, a couple of those songs are just really, really good. The Magic, I was listening to it yesterday on YouTube. I was just like, this song's fantastic. Like, why don't people like latch on to this more? Like, I haven't heard that song in decades. But that's where it stops. Everything else about this movie is just, like I said earlier, it is a piece of dog shit on the side of the road. I will never watch this movie again. If anyone out there is on the fence or has never seen this movie, do not watch it. Don't waste your time.
So it's a no recommendation from you.
That is a hard no.
Art?
Oh God. Yeah, this is like a -1 with a pile of shit on top of it. A shit that's been shit on a couple of times. This was awful. And like Matt said, the only bright spots in the movie were Olivia Newton-John and Gene Kelly, and that was it. It ends there. This isn't like Top Gun bad, but Jesus, this was awful. I'm never watching this again. I think God hates this story as much as I do. Like, I actually think God hates this movie as much as I do. This was awful.
Well, he didn't appreciate that whole Zeus representation, I'm sure.
No, probably not. No, but this was definitely taking like a cheese grater to the tip of your dick. And I couldn't watch it sober. It was impossible. There was no way to do it.
So what you're saying is it's like masturbating with a cheese grater, slightly amusing but mostly painful.
Yeah, and then when you're done, you're like, okay, well, I got off, but it still sucked. It was awful. I'm bleeding everywhere now.
So you give it a -1.
Oh yeah, and if I could give it negative more, I would. Oh,
and is it okay? What a recommendation? If you've never seen it, is it at least worth watching once to see how bad it is?
If you like a sack of broken glass shoved up your ass, by all means, watch it. Like fragmented, broken glass from hell. I mean, this was awful. Words don't even describe it.
Wow.
I'd never tell another. I mean, unless I really hated that person and I wanted them to a mental state where they were suicidal, I would never recommend this movie to anybody unless I truly hated them. Like maybe Saddam or I don't know, Adolf Hitler, I'd recommend this movie to, but I can't think of too many other people I would. This was garbage on top of shit. I mean, fuck, there was even a Don Bluth cartoon in the middle of it. They didn't know what the fuck they were doing. It was just like, let's add this. It was like two directors in a cup.
Oh, this is and this is why I recommended it, because I hate you all.
Yeah, I'm never gonna forgive you for this one, Russ. This hurt. This hurt bad.
I know. No,
Russ,
I give it a no score because it is a horrible movie.
you
I
have to
do
score
say,
something.
oh, well, a 0.
Okay.
Art gave it a you realize that means Matt rated it higher than I did.
Yeah, well, I played by the rules. I gave it a 1 through 10.
Yeah,
you guys were throwing out integers.
Yeah, true. Okay, in that case, I'll give it a 1 also. Yeah, got to play by the rules. I recommend watching it, no, but I do recommend anyone who loves the Pan Pacific Auditorium to go on YouTube and just watch that scene for the footage of the building. And if you really want to watch Olivia Newton-John, you can watch that end scene with all her costume changes on YouTube without suffering too much.
Yeah, I feel like that's a better experience, is just doing that.
But to watch the whole thing, because even last night because I hadn't watched it for several years. Like I said, I used to use this movie. I had the VHS. I found it at Goodwill for 99 cents, and I would pop it in. I had sleep apnea before I had a CPAP machine, so I'd wake up and be like, can't sleep. So I'd pop that in, and I'd be like,
you paid too much.
Like, I could see using this as birth control. Like, you put this movie in and no boner.
I don't know. It sounds like Dean was getting a little with Olivia Newton-John here and there.
Hey, who wouldn't, man? Come on now.
She's great looking.
Yeah.
She's great looking.
But I would say throughout the thing, it would be great to have someone go back in and just re-edit it and just add in just the wackiest, even more eccentric, goofy stuff into it from other movies. It's like you could just picture Sonny and using like Warriors footage and then having like Warriors come out and play. Just something like that, just screwing with the entire audience and the entire movie again. That would be entertaining.
That would be a great movie if you take Sonny out and then replace him with Michael Beck as Swan from the Warriors in every single scene.
Oh God!
Like, I mean, like when he's beat up and he's like bloody and everything, and when the muses come out, he can be like, "Let's take these lame fucks."
yes, that's it.
Yeah,
And then and the Ghostbusters. You gotta have the Ghostbusters going after the muses at the beginning. Just have them shooting their proton packs, and the scene when they got Slimer and he's going in, and except have it be like one of the random muses. Help!
Wow!
You killed Cleo.
We came, we saw, we kicked its ass.
I don't know. God. Just for the scene with Gene Kelly, I will give this a 2.5. Just for that dance scene with Gene Kelly. I'll give it a 2.
That's a hearty 2.5, but
I'll give it a 2.5.
Can't fault you for that.
But you're right. This movie sucks. It's just part of it is just so hard you're right, Art. It's so hard to get through. I've watched this movie 4 times since when we decided to do it. And
that was your own fault.
Man, I am so sorry, Dean. I did not expect you to watch it 4 times.
You watched it 4 times in a documentary.
The documentary was actually interesting, but on the 3rd watch through, I'm like, why am I doing? And then when I watched it last night, just so it was fresh in my head for today, it was painful. It was just so painful. It's like, ugh. But like I said, this is someone's coke-filled fever dream.
Yeah.
That is what this. I mean,
well, I feel like that's how history has kind of remembered this movie too for the last 4 decades. Is wow, what a mistake.
Now,
but it was a product of the time, I guess.
Just so everyone on Earth can experience the shit show, I would recommend everyone watch it at least once, just so they can perceive how bad it is. Because we can tell you how bad it is all day. Until you see it yourself, you're never going to believe how shitty this movie is. Until you actually...
I wouldn't have had a clue. I could not do the Cliff Notes for this and then do this podcast. I was 10 minutes into it. I'm like, I wouldn't have believed anyone if they told me how shitty this was.
You had to see it for yourself.
And I love bad movies that are... I love scraping the good out of bad movies. I feel like it's more honest than big budget, giganto films. I can watch a movie like Samurai Cop and be like, oh my God, this is so bad that it becomes good again. And, and everybody involved in that movie was trying. Like they were trying their best and it just didn't work. But it's still damn entertaining. This movie isn't entertaining. It's a complete mess, and they had a $20 million budget.
The only person that benefited from this movie was Clint Howard because we didn't spend the last hour ragging on him.
Well, now you just avoided that though, because you brought him up. The poor guy was like, "Oh darn it!"
Now,
motherfucker.
And I agree with Matt. It has a great soundtrack. If anything, the good to come out of this was the soundtrack.
I really feel bad for ELO because they are even with these songs. It seems like they were really pushed into making music for this movie, and it's not something that they seem to be the kind of band to do. They were very open to being creative in their entire career, and it's almost like it sucked the life out of them. They're like gone after Xanadu.
And that song "Don't Bring Me Down" takes on a whole new meaning now.
And the Tubes kept the fucking costumes, the orange jumpsuits, and used them on tour. That's the only
poor bastards.
They did it willingly.
They're like, Free is a very good price, as Tom Peterson, a local furniture salesman, would always say up here. And
I mean, as far as orange jumpsuits go, I mean, they were top notch, but
orange is the new black.
Yeah, they look like they were on a road crew. Picking up garbage. Hey, there's some symbolism for you.
Oh man, that would be great for new prison, jumpsuits. Instead of having it say inmate, just spray paint Xanadu.
Xanadu on the
that
back.
Would be in a whole new, or would that fall under pain?
Cruel and unusual punishment.
Yeah, cruel and unusual.
I hereby sentence you to 20 years hard labor in Xanadu.
Oh fuck! Why couldn't you just give me the chair?
I have to watch this movie once a week.
No, daily. It's on 24/7 rotation.
So, is there anything else we want to add to this, guys?
I think we're done bashing it.
Yeah, I think we've sufficiently broken all of its ribs. I don't think I have the energy to throw another punch. This movie is just pure shit.
I would agree.
I warn all of you listening, do not watch it.
Queen.
Because normally I'd be like, watch this movie, and then you'll enjoy this podcast more. But I'll take one for the team here. Don't watch this movie. It sucks.
This is one movie Queen could not have saved.
No.
Even if they had done the soundtrack.
I don't know if anything could have saved this movie. Even if the script was better, it's still crap. Even if the performances, even if more things happened.
No, because that's what this movie needed was more shit.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that would have saved this. It was just a cinematic abomination. Watching this movie makes me wonder if I really like movies anymore. Like it's just bad. It's like when you go to work at a place and you start it and you're like, okay, this is going to be great. This is a new job. And the first day you're just like, oh my God, I never want to work again.
Yeah, this movie actually makes Rhinestone with Sylvester Stallone and Dolly Parton look like a cinematic masterpiece.
I would rather watch that movie 10 times in a row than this movie once.
Wow.
I've recommending this to you guys to watch or to have a review. I've made you appreciate everything else in your life.
Plan 9 from Outer Space was better than this.
See?
Yeah. Yeah. More entertaining.
Watching paint dry can be more entertaining than this.
I mean, this is just a hair above a Treat Williams movie. Just a hair.
Well, you know, that would be another person we could like put into this movie just randomly. Treat Williams, just to make Art happy.
It couldn't get any worse.
Just so our listeners know, Art hates Treat Williams with a passion.
He's my human mortal enemy.
So if he's listening, Art's going to get you one day, Treat.
Well,
he's going to be like knocking on my door in 10 minutes.
FBI. Oh, dude.
Well, is there no other last words, guys?
That's all I got.
Other than fuck this movie. God.
And on that note, thank you, everyone, and we will catch you on the next one.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps us out.